They are. Oh.
Hi all. Today we have a video from Levitical, who claims that there are two different types of atheists. I'm not really going to critique this video. I'm more interested in seeing what these two categories are and whether or not I fit into either one. You know, just for shits and giggles. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go check out the original video. Let's jump on in.
For the past 6 years, I have been analyzing the traits, areas of interest, upbringings, emotional tendencies, and reasoning methods of the atheist.
Wow, so you're about to drop some statistics and peer-reviewed studies on us to make your point, right? I'm sorry, I forgot, I'm not trying to critique this video. Please continue.
In this video, I will briefly explain the two different types of atheists you will encounter, both online and on the streets.
There's only two types of atheists? I remember reading an article on CNN about different types of atheists, and those researchers, who did an actual study by the way, came up with 6 general types of atheists. They were the intellectual atheist agnostic, activist, seeker agnostic, anti-theist, non-theist, and ritual atheist. While I share some traits from a few of those categories, if I had to label myself, I'd likely say that I most closely resemble the intellectual atheist agnostic. I like debating religion online, I seek information, and I've read quite a few religious books as well as many that were non-religious. Anyways, carry on.
So, these two kinds of non-believers are militant and passive.
So are you going to define them? What exactly do you consider a militant atheist? Someone who speaks their mind online, someone who opposes religion and religious ideas, someone who fights against religion being inserted into their political system? I mean, your graphic is a little sparse, although it does offer at least a few clues. I'm not sure why you have anti-theist and SJW lumped under militant atheist. What do you consider a social justice warrior? Christopher Hitchens, for example, called himself an anti-theist, but I would hardly consider him to be a social justice warrior. But again, I guess that would depend on what you consider to be an SJW. Usually, when someone calls another person an SJW, they're using it as a pejorative. They're attempting to apply a negative label. The label itself means something different to different people. If you're going to discuss this stuff, I really think you should think about your approach and maybe be a bit more precise with your labels and definitions. Anyways, I digress.
The militant atheist is usually in favor of communism, or at least socialism.
Okay, well that doesn't describe me. I'm definitely not for communism, although depending on the social program we're discussing, I might be for or against the idea. However, I'm not for all-out socialism.
Not to say that it's impossible, but you will be hard-pressed to find a militant atheist who is openly in favor of a right-wing political stance.
Maybe. I don't know if that's true. I think a lot of the established atheist channels here on YouTube, for example, favor right-leaning politics. I'm thinking about channels such as Computing Forever, who used to talk about atheism quite a bit, but lately talks almost exclusively about politics and social issues, while openly calling himself a conservative. I will grant you that atheists in general seem to fall within the politically liberal sphere, although only slightly. The last poll I saw showed that 56% of atheists polled called themselves politically liberal, only 1 in 10 called themselves conservatives.
He is typically homosexual or bisexual.
Nope, heterosexual here.
You're fucking a white male! You're a white man!
In fact, in all my experiences dealing with militant atheists, about 9 times during my debates with them, I have been hit on.
9 times out of how many debates, or did you mean 9 times out of 10? If the latter, I'd have to say I don't believe you.
The militant atheist, just like the passive one, is almost always brought up in some kind of Christian household.
That one is true for me. I grew up in a religious household, but that doesn't really surprise me when you look at the demographics in North America, since the majority of households are religious. The odds that you'll be born into a religious household are much greater than it would be to be born within a non-religious household. We're working on that though. Was that my militant atheism coming out?
Whether Protestant or Catholic, the militant atheist was raised by Christian parents and often attended church.
Presbyterian here. Later we moved into a Baptist church. I did attend church every weekend. It's likely part of the reason I became an atheist. Not only did it teach me about the religion, but it exposed me to the hypocrisy of the believers themselves. It showed me that while believers often thought themselves morally superior to the non-religious, they would often act in unethical ways. But hey, maybe I was wrong. Maybe religion does teach a standard of ethics atheists can never hope to achieve. Maybe with the help of religion, the faithful have learned how to treat their fellow human beings with more respect, more courtesy. Or maybe not.
They become atheists upon adulthood, but in reality they are already gone long before that.
Yeah, I officially thought of myself as an atheist in adulthood, but I harbored serious doubts throughout my childhood. The things I was taught as fact in Sunday school just didn't hold up under scrutiny.
Between the militant and the passive atheist, it's always the militant ones that have experienced far more traumatic events in their youth. Parents are separated.
Nope, my parents were happily married until my father passed away.
Molested as a child?
Nope, I was never molested. I had a fairly ordinary childhood.
Beaten by their father? Bullied in school?
Nope, I did get spanked, but I'd hardly call that getting beaten. I wasn't bullied much either.
And often struggling with depression?
Nope, no depression here.
This is why the militant atheists are greatly motivated by their emotions.
I don't think I'm motivated much by my emotions. In fact, my girlfriend often calls me a robot, especially when I'm in debate mode. I actively try not to argue from a position of emotion. However, I am human, so emotion is inevitable sometimes.
It is where the maxim is realized that hurting people hurt people.
I don't go out of my way to hurt people. I also don't refrain from telling the truth as I see it to spare someone's feelings. Maybe I should. I don't know. But I feel it's more respectful to treat someone as an adult and tell them what I really think than it is to dance around on eggshells like I might a child whose feelings I don't want to hurt. I do try not to make personal attacks or name call because I feel as though it detracts from the points I'm trying to make, but that's just me.
And often when someone is angry at an ideology, the best that they can do is utilize a passionate rhetoric and demoralize it.
Or they can use facts, statistics, and reason to argue against it. That's by far the better method in my opinion. Religions that have holy books make it so much easier to criticize.
The militant atheist is entirely oblivious to parables and hyperboles. These will fly right over their head, and the militant will often make fun of you for trying to use parables and hyperboles.
It depends how you're using those parables and hyperboles. If the religious person is using them to try to squirm away from what their holy book actually teaches, then of course they're going to get called on it. If it's an actual parable, then I have no problem with it. For example, Jesus uses obvious parables in the Bible. If a Christian used one of those, I wouldn't make fun of them for using it. The problem is that religious people often try to explain away the bits in their holy book that are obviously nonsense as some sort of allegory, when it isn't.
You have to speak as simply and as literally as you can, because their impatient mind cannot process allegories. The passive atheist is part of a minority within the atheist crowd.
Look, I know I said I wasn't going to harshly critique this video, but according to polls, the passive atheist makes up the majority. According to polls, 65% say they seldom or never discuss their views on religion with religious people. Those with religious affiliations, on the other hand, seem to share their views more often with the non-religious or those who hold other beliefs. I'm not saying there is necessarily anything wrong with that, but calling passive or non-vocal atheists part of the minority would appear, at least by the polls, to be wrong. How many years did you say you've studied the atheist for again?
He can be anywhere on the political compass.
That describes any atheist, since atheism is not a political stance, but merely a lack of belief in God.
But indeed, he is still, most often, left of center, and often libertarian.
According to the political compass test, this kind of describes me. I was fairly far left-wing with a bit of libertarian thrown in for good measure. To be honest, I was actually a bit surprised by the results.
The reason for his passive stance on atheism is that he values certain fields of study, a special someone, or a hobby over his feelings towards religion.
I value all of those things over my feelings for religion, yet that doesn't mean I can't be vocal about religion, or that I can't criticize the bad ideas I think they spread, or that I can't be interested in religion as a whole.
I've always noticed that the passive atheists are far more civilized and average in most respects. They may support LGBT, but they have a partner of the opposite sex.
That would be me as well. I support same-sex marriage and always have. I'm also heterosexual and have a female partner in crime. Damn, I'm becoming confused. I share traits with the militant atheist as well as the passive atheist. What am I?
They might even march in an atheist rally.
I've never marched in a rally, and I'd have to have a damn good reason to do so. I hate crowds, and I don't usually do rallies. I also don't like the whole hive mind mentality, and I prefer to hold my own stances that very rarely mesh with any one political or social group.
But they will be the first ones to walk out when people start chanting that we should slander religious people or try to outlaw religious evangelization.
I've never heard from an atheist who said religion should be illegal. I think a lot of atheists would join the side of the religious if the government ever tried to ban religion, me included.
When debating a passive atheist, they most often take the indirect approach and avoid angering their opponent as much as possible.
Yeah, nope. Like I said, I won't go out of my way to anger someone, but I just say what I think to be true. If they choose to take offense, then I'll live with the consequences. It's the best way I know of that allows me to stay true to myself.
They ask far more questions than the militant ones, and when they don't know something, they see no shame in admitting it.
Okay, well, I don't feel shame admitting I don't know something. In fact, I was recently sent a private message by a religious person that forced me to do research because I didn't know the answer. I even plan on making a video about it.
For the passive atheist, it is most often that he is an atheist because he has witnessed far too much stupidity among people who claim to believe in a god, and so he has thrown the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak.
Not so sure that it's necessarily throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They've likely evaluated the religious claims as well, but the blatant hypocrisy that some people exhibit, while preaching that their religion is the only path to morality, just seals the deal.
There is still so much more that can and should be said about the tendencies of different kinds of atheists. I am currently writing a book called A Mind Without God, Understanding the Paradigms of Atheism.
Sounds like an interesting book, one I'd love to get my hands on. I hope you put a lot more research into your book than you did this video. It's not that difficult to find statistics on atheists, and your anecdotal evidence isn't really all that relevant when it comes to talking about atheists as a group. But that's just my advice. Do with it as you will. Anyhow, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and cheers!